VoyMonk video voice vlog. Yeah. Started off this week talking about content over production. I also wanted to talk about reasons for doing, anything as it relates to knowing your audience, producing for an audience, trying to do something that engages others in terms of personality. And I kind of hate using that word because personality has come to mean more character rather than it is someone who's authentic in being themselves. But be that as it is, I think of it in the way of, what causes a person to want to do something that has to do with entertaining or producing content in the first place for others. I think sometimes it's to get rich. I think that could be bottom line for anyone. I mean, sometimes it can kind of go hand in hand. It's something that they like to do as far as creative. There's a bit of ego stroke. And of course, there's a way of making money, right? That's the honest truth, right? If you can do both of those things, who are you hurting, right? And I'm not saying that you hurt anybody, but I'm saying that can be a motivation. Sometimes it's just strictly ego. I think the funny thing is that probably some of the most creative and most influential individuals probably had the biggest egos, meaning that, money was a default, certainly, but it was much more about getting the recognition and being praised and all of the other stuff as well. I think these are two of the examples that I can give. I mean, I'm sure that there are others, and I'm certainly, again, not pontificating and saying what is. I'm just certainly giving my experience and, I guess my opinion and what I appreciate. And the reason I talk about this is because obviously I'm highlighting myself. Why do I do this? Well, I'm doing this because I love doing this. I love talking. I literally like putting this up here for me, number one, because if I can't do that, there's no way that I can do the rest of this. But also in the possibility of sharing and creating something, like I said, in terms of a community, and also there too, building something that I feel is meaningful. To do that, obviously it takes money. It obviously takes resources and those types of things. But I'm not talking about taking the shortcuts. If what I can produce creates, something that's positive along with it, that's great. But that is not my primary motivation for doing any of this. Now, keep in mind, just because I want to do it doesn't mean that I can do it. I mean, I am doing it, but it doesn't mean that anything is going to come to fruition. I understand that. So people just don't like me. And the thing of it is that being likable is very, very much important in terms of how to promote, how to produce, and how to do things. I mean, I think as much as I've learned at this point about what people have said about how to promote your channel and this and that and whatever, I think what some people kind of overlook are some of the very basics. And as I've said before, my background is in radio broadcasting. What that means is that I'm knowledgeable enough about the media and the medium of, TV, radio, and that sort of thing as far as its psychology and what it takes and what goes into the meat grinder to, make that thing that people like to consume. The thing of it is that, that's kind of really much more, I would say, the limit outside of just my years of 47 being on this planet and just observing socially what I do. And so, bottom line is that just because you want something doesn't mean it's always something that you should have. I think in general, I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about you as specific, just generically, and not in the way that has anything other than to do with me expressing and sharing my experience. But as I said before, doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but no matter what, I think it's most important to be oneself, because you can fake a lot of things, but the one thing that you can't fake is, or at least not forever, is your real motivations for doing something. And I think, in what I've seen, and a lot of people have seen, is that over the years, even some people that become extremely successful, they have money and production and produce quite a bit, sometimes people really find out what their motivations are much, much later. And I think that's something that's, at least for me, kind of a warning, kind of a fable or story that's, a lesson or a moral for me. Anyways, until next time.